produced by uranium.
Who spent a large part of your life working for disarmament.
To the whole of humanity. But fortunately, they came up with a bullet that was lighter, but was more stable in flight. So the standard. I think that it will be very difficult for the U.S. to extricate it from that agreement. And I think it was to the great credit of Obama and Hillary Clinton that they stood behind it. And I think it gives, if it were not for that agreement, there would be a greater risk that Iran might move towards a nuclear weapon. Now, to tear it up, I think will be very difficult, because it's not just a bilateral agreement between the U.S. and Iran. It is also Russia, it's China, it's UK, it's France, and it's the whole Security Council that stands behind it. And the UN Security Council has lifted the sanctions. The sanctions, UN sanctions are no longer there. European sanctions are no longer there. Now, it may be that the US under Trump would obstruct, and that they would let their financial institutions, which have considerable power, to prevent transactions in dollars with Iran, so they can put obstacles in the way. But they cannot destroy the agreement. But the analysis, same factors at work in the US as you had in the UK behind. I think that he will recognize that the world is a lot more dangerous for the US and for everybody if there are more states that have nuclear weapons than less. Trump has made some statements that question this. He said, well, why not, shouldn't Japanese have their weapons or South Koreans have their weapons? But I think that better advice and looking at the matter more closely, he will realize that if Japan were to move for nuclear weapons, and they could do so in a very short time if they wanted to, that the whole political situation, atmosphere in the Far East would be very, very different. Also a movement that is more nationalistic. Now, one has to make some distinction between politicians, say, in election campaigns and in other. And I think that he's been very careless in the election campaigns. It could come out this way or come out that way. But once you are in an institution, there are many factors available to you. You have the big military establishment of the United States. They are not reckless. I may not always agree with them, certainly not, but they are not reckless. We welcome immigration. We say positive with demography. We need a detente in the world in order to get back to a climate. Now, whether that will happen under Trump, we don't know. He is a very touchy guy, and maybe someone would fear that if you step on his toes, then he will touch the button. But he is also someone who thinks very freely, who is not wedded to to doctrines, and that could, in some situation, could be an advantage. One has the impression that he is not keen on interventionism, for instance, and in that sense similar to Obama. Obama did not intervene in Libya, he did not intervene in Syria, he did not want to have a no-fly zone in Syria, which Hillary wanted to have. So there's still open questions here. And we did quite a lot, actually, with US help at that time.